Yes, this is a review, and I will be reviewing a game. But first, let's just watch the intro to it, get a little background information. Well, you heard the man. This is Super Smash Bros. Melee, and this is the sequel to Super Smash Bros. On the Nintendo 64. Back then, the game wasn't as well known as it is today, although it still had the same style as its successors. But we'll save that story for another time. Super Smash Bros. Melee was released side by side with the Gamecube to show off the improved graphics of the system. But what we got was much more than a pretty launch title. To start, let's talk about the box. You've got a picture of a couple of Nintendo stars in a fight outside of a castle or something. At first glance, it looks great, but then you notice, what is Link doing? Trying to stab the fire? Shouldn't he be aiming at Bowser or Mario? Even Pikachu would be fine. All he's doing is dodging the flames anyway. And then there's this pasty blue sky that looks strange, and tacky little portraits of the characters hanging on the sides. And that T for teen rating just bugs the hell out of me, especially when it's right next to a Nintendo logo. But this isn't really what you want to know. You want to know what the game's like. Well, to begin, there's pretty much 8 different modes to choose from. There's the Versus mode, the Trophies mode, Stadium and Training, Event Match mode, Classic mode, Adventure mode, and All-Star mode. And we'll go into each one in more detail. First, there's the Versus mode, which pits you against friends and computer players with up to 4 players fighting at once. Super Smash Bros. Is a fighting game, so it will become pretty hectic. Also, while the graphics are 3D, you can only move characters in 2 dimensions, side to side. Without a doubt, the Versus mode is where you'll be spending the bulk of your time with the game. It's hectic, frantic, chaotic, disorienting, and one of the best times you'll have with a GameCube multiplayer game. With this one mode, there's so much content it makes my head spin, and it improves on the original Smash Bros. In so many ways. For one, there's more than twice the amount of characters to play as, which totals to about 25 Nintendo icons. There's some pretty good selections too, like Luigi and Fox, and there's also some obscure ones like Marth and Mr. Game & Watch. There are clones though. Clones are basically characters with the same moveset as another character, just a different look. Like Dr. Mario and Mario, Falco and Fox, Pikachu and Pichu, you get the idea. But still, each character remains highly playable, and all are useful given that they're used right. Except for Jigglypuff, she's just useless. Also, you only start out with a handful of fighters, and must unlock the rest. This can be done by completing different modes with different characters. So next up are the stages, and man, there's a ton of them. 29 total, with at least one stage for every character. There's a stage for Metroid, Super Mario World, Mute City, the Pokemon Stadium, Zelda, and Game & Watch. There's even stages from the previous Smash Bros. Games. Each stage is expertly designed and doesn't merely serve as a backdrop for the fighting. And also going back to the box again, this really is among Nintendo's best in 4-player action. Also, you can use items in-game. There's too many to count, but almost all of the items make a reference to some classic Nintendo game. And on top of that, There's Special Melee, where you can set all the characters to giant or tiny, or even metal. The gameplay revolves around trying to smash your opponents off of the stage, and instead of health bars, your damage is measured in percentages. The higher the percent, the more likely you'll get thrown out of the stage. Next is Trophy Mode, where you can view the various trophies you've collected, and each one has a little description of which game that trophy refers to. The feature's a little pointless, but it's nice to have. Then there's the Stadium and Training modes. Stadium has a player trying to launch a sandbag as far as possible by using various attacks in succession. It's pretty fun, and a way to unlock some cool stages too. Training basically pits you against an opponent that will never move or resist unless they're trying to get back on the stage. What's cool about Training is that you can set the opponent's damage level to anything you want. The highest percentage possible is actually 999%, and at that point, a single punch can send them flying. One of my favorite gameplay modes is Event Mode, where you'll have to satisfy specific conditions for each event. Some of them are easy, but then others seem practically impossible, like when you'll have to kill 3 different Metal Zombies characters. So next is Classic Mode, which is standard in a fighting game. Kill a character, move on to the next one, etc, etc. Except here, you might fight a team of enemies, or one giant enemy. Also, the Classic Mode is different for every character you choose. There's even little distractions in between the fights, like target practice, where you must break all the targets in the time limit without dying. Then there's Adventure Mode, which plays out sort of like a side-scroller, and it has some cool cutscenes. Good, but not something you'll play over and over. And finally, there's All-Star Mode, where the player has to fight every character in the game with only a couple lives and health hearts to help you along the way. So now that I've covered the main gameplay modes, let's talk about the experience. To start, the graphics look awesome. Nothing to really complain about there. Same goes for the sounds and music. Controls are actually a bit complicated to really explain, and I'm not going to bore you with the details. But I just want you to imagine how much depth there is to this game, just with the controls, and applying the movesets of characters like Mario adds even more depth. Everyone has their signature attacks. Mario has his fireballs, Link his sword, and Samus her arm cannon. The control scheme will become second nature after a couple minutes, and it works very well. In fact, everything works well in Melee. It's really hard to find any problems with the game without picking on the GameCube's technical limitations. So if you own a GameCube or Wii, buy it. I'm not asking or suggesting it. Just buy it. You'll see what I mean.